I've been having urges lately. Chunky urges. I made a pretty chunky one recently. Finished this, and my first thought was, can I go chunkier? Next day, drew this, and was satisfied about how it's chunkier. 4 3/4 long, 2 3/4 tall, 1 5/8 inch wide. Too chunky? I think it's because just recently I went thin. This just threw off my chunkometer, the Megabass 110 knockoff, so this will set things correct. How hefty can we go? It's not just a matter of making it bigger. Like if I made this and just scaled it up to 20 inches and it was just this huge, like that doesn't make it chunkier. That just makes it bigger. Let's get our definitions straight. This is a 4-inch bait. You've fished with a 4-inch bait, right? But this is a 4-inch bait that like fills up your entire hand. Glad we got that straight. Look at that, I actually made the top template the correct length. Goes end to end. This one's definitely gonna be in the Fish with Your Masterpiece course. There's the lip. It's rounded but also flat on the sides. Kind of lip shape. I really like this lip shape. Regardless of the overwhelming chunkitude, I think it would be best to avoid an extremely slappy, surface level, just obnoxious action. Just achieve standard action, let the bulk do the talking, the attracting, the fish attention grabbing. Just let the size speak. If it can just sit on my head like that, no problem. That's how you know it's chunky. There's a trick to this. This is not a matter of just evenly rounding off each of those corners now that we're about to carve the bait out. Let me bring your attention to this part right here. What would you call that? But this is what we're having to keep in mind while we carve this whole thing out, with the goal to accentuate. Start thin up here, get wider down here, go super thin. Maybe not super thin, but substantially thinner back here on the tail piece.
A little bit more men than
Dang it! It came off. I wasn't done. Bit of a taper on a 1/4 inch thick lip. That's something new. I gotta polish that up though. All the way to 1,000, starting at 150. Trying to polish that as much as I can. It's gotten pretty clear. It's a little cloudy. It's worth the tapered lip. I'm not crying. There's still a lot to do. I decided to not put scales towards the top above the lateral line. They just fade out in kind of a swish pattern. I'm gonna paint those scales and then let the carvings do the talking on the ones below. I've probably been doing this for 3 hours now. It might take the rest of the day. I gotta come in to each of these scales, remove the tip down there, remove the tip up there, and kind of round off the end of each of these, and then scrape them flat so you don't see that carve mark. Lots of steps for each scale. A bait this size, I expect to be doing scales the whole day if I decide to do scales. I can't believe I decided to do scales. What just came over me, I don't know, but I fell up for it this morning. Feeling less and less up for it as we go, but it's the way it goes. Back to my happy place. Woo! Can't even get this thing in there. There was a lot of carving. Glad it's over. We're going with a good old primer. Shellac based primer. Didn't carve out the lip slot completely. Didn't even drill the pilot holes. Not gonna bother, because this bait's so awesome it doesn't even need that. Just kidding, I'm gonna make a mold of it. Doing that does not help. No need to do that, fellas. This stuff is so scary too, because it seems like it's gonna dry super thick and everything's ruined, but you're good. Don't worry about it. That's gonna accept a sanding real nice. It's peg time. I got a new mold release. Easy Release 200. It's supposed to be for platinum based stuff. Everybody loves it. I feel pretty confident using it. That goes on pretty nice. I'm gonna squish the clay into the edges. It's a flat edge, goes against the mold box and just kind of makes it so that clay seals against it all. Oh boy, probably 15 to 20. So let's do 8 and 8. 8 ounces each sad. Okay, that was 9. Oh man, we're gonna get to 9 in one scoop. This was perfect. We're gonna stir this up and pour it in. I went into like full productivity mode. Actually carved scales into this. I got new headphones. I've been wearing those while I work, and it's like I'm in a bubble. I can get so much more done. But it's like the noise canceling stuff makes it a huge difference for some reason for me. Wow, I needed every ounce of that. I heard from a fellow bait maker that if you put this thing in the freezer, the clay peels away from the silicone perfectly. For me, outside is the same temperature. So we're gonna put that outside for 15 minutes, and hopefully a deer doesn't pee on it. It's time to see how this method works. Well, that popped right off. Does the clay pop right off? In the important places, yes. This is some pretty, I don't know how you call it. It's like sticky chalk clay. It can be annoying. That's not so annoying though. We got the typical suspects on the mold creases. You always get clay in there. But between the scales, nothing pesky. A little bit down here, that's fine. I would conclude that that worked well. The cold even makes the toothpicking work better. The clay is chunking off on this chunky bait instead of smearing off. Usually I get skid marks. Maybe this method works in the bathroom. Just go in the freezer for a bit before wiping, fellas. Way cleaner. Alright, see you tomorrow again. It's time. There's a strange little air bubble in this mold. Kinda looks like a snowman. A little snowman bubble. This is gonna be so cool. I've never done a translucent resin mold like this that you can watch fill up. We're gonna be able to watch it. We're gonna see it happen. Ever since I got these, I've been so much more willing to make resin molds. It's crazy. All right, we did a talcum powder mold release. Let's see if it worked again. Yes. Oh, this was talcum powder and that new bottle of spray release I got. This is coming apart so good. No cure inhibition whatsoever. That is glorious stuff. Good to keep your molds conditioned. Give it the mold release once in a while. Silicone conditioning. We're gonna slice a sprue into this, maybe 4 air vents, and get to casting. Gotta line the molds up, take a straight razor. This one will get away with a large sprue on the top. I feel like I've finally figured out the platinum-based silicones, and I can do anything with them now. Just the shellac sealer, the shellac gloss top coats on stuff, talcum powder, and ease release 200. It's all figured out. Those were the keys. Just gave it all away right there. The search is over, fellas. It's all sunshine and rainbows from here. Oh, and for casting silicone tail fins on gliders and stuff. Whew, I'm excited to try that. Even though the next 2-piece glider I make's not gonna have a tail fin. There's a sneak peek, oh my goodness. 2.5 ounces each side. Have our resin, we have our hardener. We're gonna add our microspheres. 1, 2, 3, 4 scoops. Stir the spheres in. I'm gonna be so sad if this isn't enough, because then I wasted quite a bit of resin. I don't have very much. If this isn't enough, I have to go back out and get more. And the reaction has begun. Stir, 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 stir for like 15 seconds at the most. Oh my goodness, I'm spilling everywhere. I need cups with a little spout on them. Are we getting close? Because I'm getting close. Oh no, it's not even close. Maybe I could mix just a tiny bit more up really quick and add it, and it's like it never happened. I have to be so fast though. Oh my goodness, this is insane. It's super Oh, I think that worked because I tilted the mold so it got everywhere against the mold sides first, and then I just filled in the cavity. Gave it its mandatory slaps. Haha. I went from all hope is lost to nice. Will that sketchy casting look all right? It's like a half an hour later. Dang, it looks great. That looks just fine. Really liking how the scales fade out. The size and shape of every scale. They get smaller towards the back. This is great. I'm gonna let this cure actually. We want every last little bit of moisture out of that thing. By the way, I took the wooden one, I added weight. We're gonna use it as a lure as well. Hoping this floats. I put 4 scoops of microspheres in it, but it feels about the same weight already as this weighted one, so I could check right now. It wouldn't be that big of a deal because I'm gonna let it sit overnight for the moisture to get out of there and bake it. So I'm panicking right now because this camera's low on battery and I want to test this before it runs out. Whoa, it's a slow floater. So it just barely wants to float though. Dang, I should have put 6 scoops in there. I wanted a heavy float so I don't need to use a lot of lead. Might be a countdown crank. So back to the wooden version. We're gonna cover over and fill up the lead holes with a mixture of UV resin and glass microspheres. Layer by layer, give it a chance to seep into the wood. I drilled out a 3/8 inch hole and dropped some tungsten carbide down there. Made it a little bit more nose heavy and added a lot more weight to it so it's not so float happy. I want it to be reluctant to float. That ain't white, but that's what we're starting with. There's the white. Created quite the contrast. Same angle, but pearl white. We won't see much of a difference. But in real life, it makes a giant difference. It's so shiny. Okay, we got some kind of shiner. I don't even know what. That, with those black spots on the certain scales and whatnot, gonna go good. It's gonna be a fat one, but a fat one it shall be. Good paint scheme. Let's just get a few colors spritzed on here. See if they're appropriate. There's quite a few when you really look at that thing. I'm gonna get over expressive with the colors. Starting. Sienna or umber? Burnt trauma under umber. Where the scales aren't. Over the top. A little bit. This is the green. Very yellow still. A little bit of green. You know, that's what we need. Down the middle. A little low down the middle. That's way more potent than what's on that photo, but pearls are going back over those colors. I'm cool with that. Okay, that's pretty good. This is going splotchy just on the belly. Nothing back here, just on the belly and up around the fin. Okay, really folded that over down here, trying to get this to round off, follow the curve. We were successful, and now we're gonna squirt some wicked aluminum at it. Stand pretty high with it. Scale reveal up top here. Whoa, that's pretty intense, where you got painted scales like that with the carved. Pretty smooth transition. Whoa. Scale by scale is how you get the best detail. Thank goodness for detail smoke black, because it needed that droopage off those black spots. Now those spots are not so jarring. Gorgeous. I opened up my eye drawer, instantly saw this eye, and the decision was made. Kind of scraped off the black when I pushed that eye in. So I'm putting it back on by hand with a brush, and it's very nerve-wracking. That's a big crankbait. My chunkometer is reset. We're back to the correct levels. I never found out the name of this species that I painted. One sec. So I'm on the database of shiners. There's spot tail shiners, steel color shiners, stripe shiner, shallow tail shiners, weed shiners, saffron shiners. I get to what I painted, and it's just shiner. It's just shiner. Nothing. Shiner. I'm glad I found this website though, because this is like all the shiners. Bluehead shiner, cherryfin shiner, coastal shiner, emerald, ghost, golden, mimic, peppered. It's a lot. Fantastic paint schemes. Shiner life. Save. All right. Chunky common shiner right here. Let's go test it. As for the resin deal, like I ran out of resin, remember? I went to the Hobby Lobby. I packed up the kids, stuffed them in the truck, corralled them into the Hobby Lobby, went straight to the resin section, and they didn't have the resin I needed. Then I herded them to the Fleet Farm and got some new fishing line. I've never tried this stuff before. Suffix Revolve, ultra thin finesse braid. We'll put that on the spinner this year. That was the Suffix Revolve, I didn't fart. Let's see how the chunkiest shiner in the world works. I got the tungsten weight placement up here and then a big lead one, so there's two. It still floats pretty hard, but this is the wooden version, remember? I'll be able to get more of a suspender with the resin version once I get some resin. Wow. This is a wake bait. Let me see. Yeah, that stays up top the whole time. This is an absolute smack your great-great-grandma wake bait. Action nursing home abuse. Action City tsunami in the test tank right now. Like, that's beyond body roll. So when we do get a resin version of this and it suspends, it's gonna have the nice action that, like, it doesn't go too deep too fast. Hey Raz.
What are you doing?
When you crank it, it kind of just stays at the same level and it'll suspend at the right level in the strike zone, you know?
Old girl did not want to start in -7.
I heard that. Amazing. Unfortunately, we made another wake bait, but that's kind of the plans I had for the extremely buoyant Tupelo one. If you go to the Instagram, eventually there will be resin versions of this, and I'll show the action and everything, and we're probably going to fish with the resin version on the bait legations this year. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Template for this behemoth will be on the Fish with Your Masterpiece course, linked below. Fellas are going to be excited for that one. Probably not going to Florida, because unless you guys go back to the last video and like really hit the likes on that video, because it's don't get that video to 60,000 likes, please. I'm a bit of a homebody. You can get this one to 60,000 though, that's fine. Go ahead and hit that like button. Already got to work on the next video. Finally, there is added content to the Fish with Your Masterpiece lure making course. A couple of different paint schemes, tutorials. This is one of them. Look at that gorgeous juvenile smallmouth paint scheme. And we're getting into tutorials on how to weigh things correctly. Glide baits, specifically, was the last video. 1-piece glide baits. I'm gonna get into 2-piece glide baits. I'm gonna get into lipless crankbaits. I'm gonna get, like, there will just be an entire section on how to weigh things correctly in there. There's all the different types of baits and how to go about making them entirely. There's the main course content. It's like 4 hours of in-depth going about each step on how to make baits, adding the hardware, what the hardware should be, where it should go, type of wood, type of sealer, type of tools, everything, techniques, specific ones on how to do everything. I'm gonna stop. I think you get it. It's extremely comprehensive. It's kind of the first of its kind course. There's nothing else like it out there. Go check it out. Thanks for listening to the rambles at the end here. Thanks for watching. On to the next bait. Oh, we're gonna be able to watch it. That one it shall be. Can I go chunkier? Dang it! Woo! Can't even get this thing in there. Gave it its mandatory slaps. Doing that does not help. I'm not crying. Oh my goodness, this is insane.